Chapter 1, Blood-Red Sunset and Silent Warning. Outside the classroom window, the sky blazed with an unusually magnificent yet eerie red sunset, like an overturned jar of ochre paint spilling vivid hues of bronze and gold. Normally, such a splendid sight would have been exhilarating, but Eli Cole felt an inexplicable unease stirring in his chest. It was too red, abnormally so, as if the midday desert sun had been crushed by sand and seeped into the twilight. His phone vibrated, lighting up with a text from his mother. Eli, the Meteorological Bureau issued an extreme weather warning. A super sandstorm will hit tonight. After school, go to Safeway with your sister Leah to buy supplies in case of power and water outages. Eli frowned. As a desert city, Phoenix was no stranger to sandstorms, but receiving 18 consecutive alerts from the Arizona Emergency Management Agency since early morning was unprecedented. Even schools and all municipal facilities across the city had announced a week-long emergency closure. Such a scale sent a chill down his spine. They say this sandstorm is a once-in-a-century hubbub. Guess it's true. He muttered, mindlessly scrolling through the long list of unread emergency alerts on his screen. Just then, Justin from the next desk leaned over, his expression more solemn than Eli had ever seen. A fanatical survivalist, Justin spent his days on Reddit survival forums and prepper communities, blowing most of his allowance on MREs, water filters, and other gear stashed in his garage. His classmates often teased him for being a doomsday nutjob. Eli, Justin whispered, his voice barely audible, I need to tell you something, don't write it off as nonsense. Seeing Justin's rare seriousness, Eli dropped his casual demeanor. What's up? I met a guy on 4chan's survival board who's the technical director at NOAA's Phoenix Observatory. Justin's voice trembled slightly. He said they detected bizarre global magnetosphere anomalies, way beyond model predictions. But when he filed the report, instead of being taken seriously, he was forced on paid leave. It's a cover-up. Justin took a deep breath, locking eyes with Eli. Something's very wrong here. It's not just a sandstorm. Trust me, stock up on supplies after school, food, water, especially antibiotics and vitamins, as much as you can. This could be the prelude to SHTF, shit hits the fan. Staring into Justin's wide eyes, filled with excitement and fear, Eli's unease began to spread. But he couldn't help teasing out of habit, finally getting a chance to use your BOB, bug-out bag, huh? Instead of retorting as usual, Justin grew more urgent. Eli, I'm not joking. This is a real good, get out of Dodge moment. The school bell rang abruptly, cutting off their whispers. Eli patted Justin's shoulder. Yeah, I'll buy supplies. Slinging his already packed backpack over his shoulder, he joined the crowd streaming out of the classroom. Justin opened his mouth to call after him, but sighed in frustration. Chapter 2, Restless City and Ominous Signs. Stepping out of the school, Eli was stunned by the scene before him. Streets teemed with people, and cars were gridlocked at the I-10 entrance, their honking mingling with shouts to form a chaotic chorus of anxiety. People hurried along, arms loaded with bottled water and emergency lights, most wearing expressions of confusion and urgency, as if fleeing an impending disaster. Swept along by the crowd, Eli struggled toward Safeway, where he'd agreed to meet Leah. Out of the corner of his eye, he spotted National Guard troops evacuating people at the light rail station, though the throng made it hard to see clearly. Looking up, a plane took off from Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport, flying unusually low. Its engine roar was deafening, like a hasty escape. What the hell? That plane looks like it's gonna crash, he muttered, checking his watch. It was exactly noon. Normally bustling, the city felt like it was undergoing a silent mass exodus. Finally pushing his way to the supermarket entrance, he found Leah looking anxious. Took you long enough. Hurry inside, they're practically looting the place. She grabbed his arm, forcing her way through the front doors. Inside, chaos reigned. Shelves emptied before his eyes as people scrambled for the last cases of bottled water and canned goods. Shoppers pushed carts with competitive urgency, and checkout lines snaked endlessly. Wow, this is crazier than Black Friday, Leah exclaimed, wasting no time joining the fray. After nearly 2 hours of battling, the siblings pushed a cart overflowing with supplies to the end of the line. Just as Eli breathed a sigh of relief. Zap, pop. Sparks erupted from the wiring near the exit, accompanied by the hissing of a short circuit and a burnt plastic stench. Lights flickered wildly, dimming and brightening erratically. The crowd erupted in commotion. What's happening? Did the wires burn out? Is this from the sandstorm? I heard strong electromagnetic interference can fry circuits. A shrill voice cut through the chatter. Did you hear? The light rail red line derailed. Lots of injuries, but the news isn't covering it. The word sent a ripple of panic through the crowd. People exchanged uneasy glances, their murmurs growing louder. Eli pulled out his phone. His class group was blowing up. Along with discussions about the derailment, someone posted a blurry photo. A small passenger plane crashed in the desert, split into pieces with thick smoke billowing from the wreckage. His heart skipped a beat. Why hadn't CNN, Fox, or any other outlet pushed notifications about such a major accident? It was unheard of. This should have been trending on Twitter. Stop overthinking, Leah said, tapping his arm. Probably a fake photo for attention. Let's hurry and check out so we can go home. But as soon as she spoke, crackle, pop. The overhead lights began sparking frantically. The line erupted in screams as people ducked for cover. Chapter 3, First Clues and a Friend's Warning. Just as chaos threatened to escalate. Boom. A deafening explosion rocked the appliance section, shaking the entire supermarket. Screams and cries followed. Reacting instantly, Eli pulled Leah into his arms, shielding her as they crouched, his back facing the blast. A searing wave of heat, mixed with the stench of burnt plastic, washed over them. Seconds later, the terrified crowd dared to look up. Eli released Leah, his eyes scanning the wreckage, his pupils constricting as a bloodied severed hand sailed past the ceiling and landed on the floor just a few feet away. Fighting back nausea, he quickly covered Leah's eyes as she tried to look up. Don't look, his voice sharp with authority. It's just a microwave short-circuiting. A minor accident. Don't worry, we'll check out and go home right away. Leah trembled slightly. Though she hadn't seen the gruesome sight, the surrounding screams, and the metallic tang of blood in the air told her everything. She nodded obediently, not resisting. The checkout girl was clearly traumatized, her face pale and eyes vacant. Eli called her name several times before she snapped out of it, scanning their items with trembling hands. After paying, they stepped outside, breathing in the sand-laced air. Leah finally calmed down enough to tug at Eli's sleeve. Eli, should we go back for more? I just have a bad feeling. Looking at his sister's frightened face, remembering Justin's warnings and the explosion, Eli's unease peaked. Yes. He made an immediate decision, pushing the empty cart back into the supermarket. Targeting non-perishable items like energy bars, dehydrated food, and chocolate, he filled the cart to the brim once more. As they waited in line again, Eli's phone rang. It was Justin. Answering, he was met with Justin's frantic, almost unrecognizable voice. Eli. It's happening. The light rail and plane crashes are real. People are saying dozens are dead. And all the survival forums I'm on got shut down, civilian radio channels are jammed. This can't be a coincidence. Stock up now, focus on water and antibiotics. They're the core of any EDC, everyday carry, list. Before Eli could respond, the call cut off abruptly. He tried redialing, but only heard a busy signal. Call failed. Clutching his phone, Eli stood frozen, a chill spreading from his feet to his scalp. While Justin was obsessed with prepping, the fear and urgency in his voice were real. Combining that with today's anomalies, official overreaction, frequent power failures, covered-up accidents, and now disrupted communications. After a few tense seconds of thought, he made up his mind, better safe than sorry. Even if the supplies weren't needed, they could be eaten eventually. But if SHTF truly arrived, these would be lifesavers. Leah, let's get more. He grabbed his still-dazed sister, rushing back into the supermarket for the third time. This time, he spent every last dollar he had, filling 2 full carts. Chapter 4, The Journey Home and Storm's Prelude. When Eli and Leah pushed their loaded carts to the underground parking garage to meet their mother, she stared in disbelief at the mountain of supplies. "I told you to buy some things, not enough to last till next year," she exclaimed, helping load the Chevrolet Suburban. Every nook and cranny was filled, with the back seat piled high like a small mountain. "Mom, no time to explain, just keep loading," Eli urged, working quickly. Once the supplies were stowed, their mother and Leah drove home first. Eli hopped on his mountain bike, parked outside, and pedaled furiously toward their ranch-style house with a converted convenience store in the front yard, run by their friend Miguel's family, and a backyard guest house rented to a Mexican couple. Riding home, Eli noticed the sky growing darker. The ominous red sunset had been replaced by lead gray sand clouds, and the wind picked up, swirling gravel and plastic bags. Chaos on the streets had worsened. He even saw small shops boarding up their windows with plywood. Just as he locked his bike outside his house, Justin called again, his voice more desperate than before, laced with tears. "Eli, don't forget cash. ATMs will stop working soon. My NOAA friend says it might be a super solar storm. It'll cause a global blackout. No power means mobile payments are useless. Cash is just as important as medicine, it's a survival rule." Before Eli could reply, the call cut off again. He tried redialing, but only got a busy signal. Looking at the mountain of supplies at home, Eli wondered if he was overreacting. But Justin's increasingly urgent warnings, combined with the day's events, the power failures, covered-up accidents, and now disrupted communications, kept nagging at him. "Fine, one last run," he sighed. After getting his mother's permission, he took her bank card and headed to the nearby CVS to buy more over-the-counter meds and withdraw as much cash as possible from the ATM. Before leaving, his mother asked him to stop by her law firm to pick up office keys from Ms. Perez, who was visiting family in Mexico for 2 weeks. Chapter 5, Trapped in the Elevator and Celestial Anomaly. At the pharmacy, the clerk watched curiously as Eli filled his basket with Tylenol, amoxicillin, tourniquets, and povidone iodine. "What's going on today? Everyone's stocking up on emergency meds." Eli mumbled a vague response, avoiding her question. Just then, his phone received a long text from Justin, but most of the words were garbled, only fragments like medicine, antibiotics, water, must. Readable. Garbled text. Eli frowned. He'd never seen anything like it. Without thinking, he grabbed extra multivitamins and electrolyte powder before checking out. Leaving the pharmacy, he sent Justin a message, "Bet you're proud, spent $2,000 of my allowance on supplies. Meets your BOB standards." But the message went unanswered, disappearing into the void. Next, he headed to his mother's law firm. But moments after stepping into the elevator, a violent jolt and screeching metal sent it grinding to a halt. The lights flickered a few times before dying completely, leaving only dim emergency lights glowing. "What the hell," he cursed. This afternoon was turning into a nightmare. Soon, a security guard's voice came from outside, muffled by the thick doors, "Don't worry, folks. It's a power failure. Maintenance is on the way, but we're short-staffed due to the sandstorm warning. Hang in there." Time dragged by in darkness and tension. A young mother trapped with him began crying, clutching her 3-year-old daughter. The little girl soon joined in, her sobs echoing in the small space. Around 6 p.m., the faint light filtering through the observation elevator's windows vanished, sky turning pitch black. Moments later, howling winds sand lashed the building's glass, creating a terrifying roar. The sandstorm had arrived early. Through the tempered glass, Eli watched as pedestrians were knocked off their feet by the gale, some clinging desperately to streetlights to avoid being blown away. Suddenly, a metal billboard, torn loose by the wind, came hurtling toward the elevator like a reaper's scythe. Crash! Though the reinforced glass held, the impact and noise sent the mother and daughter into hysterics. When is maintenance coming? Are they going to leave us here to die? The woman shouted, her voice breaking. But only the howl of the storm responded. The security guard seemed to have left. Eli leaned against the elevator wall, sitting on the floor and forcing himself to stay calm, conserving energy. His sense of foreboding grew stronger by the minute. But just as despair settled in, another anomaly occurred. A blinding light pierced the black sandstorm and heavy clouds, illuminating the elevator. Unlike the pale flash of lightning, this light shifted through eerie hues, crimson, emerald, bone white, before stabilizing into a swirling spectrum. The light intensified, bathing the entire sky in a surreal glow that turned the sand-ravaged city into a bizarre, otherworldly landscape. What is that in the sky? The woman gasped, forgetting her tears as she stared in terror. Eli jumped to his feet, pressing his face against the glass. A term he'd only read about in textbooks and science articles flashed through his mind. Aurora. That's impossible. This is the desert at 33 degrees north latitude. How can there be auroras? Could it be a solar storm? Justin's warnings, the NOAA observer's discovery, frequent power failures, disrupted communications, and now auroras, a phenomenon only caused by intense solar activity at high latitudes, all the pieces clicked into place. No wonder the authorities are panicking, no wonder there are so many anomalies. Eli muttered, his face turning ashen. If a powerful solar storm had hit Earth, the damage would extend far beyond the sandstorm. Its true terror lay in the catastrophic destruction it would wreak on global electronic and power infrastructure. A blackout was imminent. And it might not be restored for days, weeks, or even longer. He pulled out his phone, still no signal. He had to get out of here. He had to get home. Before the power grid collapsed completely and society descended into chaos, he needed to be with his family. Looking up at the elevator ceiling, his eyes hardened with determination. He couldn't wait for rescue any longer. He had to find a way to escape this metal coffin, on his own. Chapter 6, The Dark Age. 5 days after the solar storm, the sandstorm continued to rage, threatening to bury Phoenix beneath a sea of red sand. The city had officially entered an era of darkness. No electricity, no internet, no running water, and no familiar urban hum. The world seemed to have been muted, replaced only by the eternal howl of the wind, the rattle of gravel, and occasional distant screams, muffled by the sand. In the first 2 days, most people treated the blackout as an enforced vacation. Neighbors gathered in garages, playing cards and complaining about their bosses, dreaming of In-N-Out burgers once the power returned. But boredom, anxiety, and uncertainty soon gnawed at everyone's nerves. Eli's family, his parents, Leah, himself, had joined forces with Miguel's family and their neighbor Kane Wright, a former Marine, and his daughter Zoe. Thanks to Eli's foresight and Justin's warnings, their initial stockpile, supplemented by gasoline, bottled water, and canned goods salvaged from sand-buried convenience stores and warehouses, gave them a temporary supply advantage. But Eli knew this advantage was fragile. "We need rules," he said solemnly, spreading out a hand-drawn supply list in Kane's candlelit basement. "Food, water and fuel will be centrally managed and rationed. Especially water, collected rain must be filtered. Fuel will run out fast." Miguel and his mother's expressions darkened as they stared at the dwindling numbers on the list. Kane nodded silently. He'd witnessed Eli's calm and decisiveness, qualities more valuable than gold in this lawless world. "Also, night watches and sentries can't stop," Eli continued. "Right now, it's just chaos. But when more people run out of supplies, we'll become a target." His prediction came true sooner than expected. Chapter 7, The First Attack. On the 10th day of the blackout, National Guard supply trucks stopped coming after only 3 deliveries. The meager energy bars and bottled water were a drop in the bucket for the starving population. Panic spread like wildfire. Their first target was inevitable, Miguel's front yard convenience store. Even though the shelves were already empty, and Miguel repeatedly insisted the store had been looted, the hungry mob refused to believe it. Or perhaps they chose not to. In the middle of the night, the sound of axes splitting would jolted everyone awake. Open up. Hand over the food. We know you're hiding supplies. Eli, Cain, and Miguel grabbed their weapons, steel pipes and sharpened rebar, and rushed to the front yard. Through the crack in the door, they saw 7 or 8 men with